Hello, welcome everyone to Girl Scouts in the Heart of Pennsylvania's Career Chats. Today's theme is the theater. And we have with us today Jackie Keegi and Rebecca Nichols, and possibly Patty Pye. Hopefully she'll be able to join us in a bit. All right, so to get started, let's meet our panelists. Jackie, if you could tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, what makes you you.
Okay, well, I was the kid who organized everybody in the neighborhood to put on plays and would put a blanket over the wash line so I could make a stage and a curtain, and wrote a play when I was in 6th grade. And that was just what I always enjoyed. So I majored in theater in college, and I think I thought when I was a freshman that I would go on to Broadway or something, but it only took me a semester or two to realize that that maybe was not the most practical career choice, and that I would have to make sacrifices that I wasn't willing to make. So I found a wonderful, not even just a compromise, just a wonderful little fork in the road, and still majored in theater. Was at that time, the state of Pennsylvania did have a teaching certificate in theater. So I am one of the few remaining people who do have a certificate in theater. So I majored in theater, but pursued a teaching certificate, and then got my master's. And then ironically, my first job was at the William Penn Performing Arts Institute. So I did get a job strictly in theater. That was part-time, did that for 3 years. And then I decided I wanted to try out teaching full-time. And of course, there were no straight theater jobs, so I ended up teaching English and theater and public speaking at Dover High School in York County. Did that for 27 years. But sometimes I think that the reason I was there was really so that I could direct the plays and the musicals. And that was what kept me going a lot of the time. So I did that. When I retired a couple years ago, I wasn't done directing, so I became more involved in Dream Rights Theater and Belmont Theater, which I had both been involved in for years, but couldn't devote as much time as I wanted to because of teaching. But now I divide my time between those two theaters, acting there, directing there, volunteering in other capacities there, and not doing too much at the moment with the pandemic.
Well, none of us really are.
But hope to get back to it when life begins to go back to normal.
Excellent. Rebecca.
Hi. So I found my love for theater when I was about 13 years old. With what was at the time York Little Theater. I don't think it's called York Little Theater anymore.
Right?
No, it's the Belmont now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm dating myself a little bit. I apologize. Fell in love with theater. Found a home and a family there. Performed all throughout high school. Left high school thinking I want to be an actor, and went to major in theater in college in New Jersey, just outside of Manhattan. There, about a year into it, I realized there's a whole lot about the theater that I love other than acting. And I learned all about the production sides of things, and I started loving all of that too. And I became a producer on our on-campus college theater group. And so I was quickly becoming a sort of jack of all trades in the theater community. And as I left, I sort of just walked my way into Manhattan and said, okay, who will hire me? And thankfully the New York City Fringe Festival did. And so I worked for the Fringe Festival for a few years in production. From there, I actually found my way into being a stage manager and tour manager for a fun, strange little feminist production that toured around the country. So I got to do that. And then I found my home at New World Stages, which is an off-Broadway house in Manhattan. And I was there for 6 years, where I ended, when I ended there, I was the director of operations, and did all sorts of stuff there, everything from taking out the garbage to helping load in shows. And after that, I had actually relocated to Wisconsin for a while. So I was the production manager for the University of Wisconsin on the Manitowoc campus, which is a smaller satellite campus for University of Wisconsin, and did collegiate theater, which was a whole brand new world, very different from commercial theater. And now I'm actually in the not-for-profit sector, and I'm working with children's not-for-profit theater as a registration manager and a data manager, and doing all sorts of things with that theater. So I've dabbled in a little bit of everything at this point.
I was going to say, between the two of you, I think we've got every job ever even thought of in the theater taken care of. Well, that's exciting. So you both mentioned that you really got interested in theater early on. Was there any moment or a person who really inspired you or sparked that interest? Anyone want to go first?
No,
Or
it wasn't a particular person. It was just something that I always felt compelled to do.
okay.
Yeah.
I will say it wasn't a person per se for me, although I have a couple of people in mind who were definitely helpful along that road. For me, when I was younger, about the 7th grade, my family moved across the country. So I went from one place to another at an age where I had no friends, knew no one. And it was my mom who saw a little audition for what was then the York Little Theater and said, well, why don't you go try and do this? And that was sort of the beginning of the end. And suddenly I found friends and family and a home and a welcoming community in the space at that time. And so, yeah, that was kind of, I realized as I got into high school that I was like, I want to do this for other people and for other little wayward souls that need it.
Excellent. And I know that you from early on you had said that you were interested in doing this. Did either of you ever consider a different career, or is this was the goal, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm going to do?
No. And that was the problem, because I couldn't, once you kind of latch into that, you can't make your brain go anywhere else.
Yeah.
And when I went, even though I had my degree in teaching in theater, I went on so many job interviews, and every single superintendent or principal that interviewed me said, you have a degree in what? And and I doubted my choices at that time in my life.
Yeah. Rebecca, was there anything else?
No, like what I'm kind of the same is once I kind of latched on, that was kind of it. And it was not for the effort of a few other friends and family members who tried to dissuade me, saying, that's a hard road. Are you sure you want to go that way? And I said, yeah, no, this is the road I'm taking. So yeah, it was sort of, once that decision was made, that was any other career I ever thought about where I was like, well, maybe I could teach. And I go, but I would teach theater.
Right. Well, let's talk about that road a little bit. What led you to these jobs? So like, what skills and talents do you feel that are important or that can really shine in these careers of yours?
I think there's so many misconceptions about people in theater, that they're they're so artsy that they're flaky and they're not organized,
Right.
and that they don't have any concrete skills, and that is so far from the truth. um, because we have to be super organized. Try putting together a show. You
Yeah.
have to plot it from, the moment of conception to opening night. And so,
There's a lot of steps and
Yes.
deadlines in between
Yes.
there. Yeah.
yes. And I do think sometimes you find yourself apologizing for your theater background.
Oh.
No, and I would kind of go off that too, in that, people will sometimes look at you and be like, oh, you were a theater major.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thinking that you don't have a sort of a educated background, whereas
Right. Like there's no marketable skills there.
Right. No. Whereas as a theater major in college, I took calculus and passed
Right.
it with flying colors and found myself using it in my theatrical career. Because when you're working production and you're mapping out sets and you're working with AutoCAD and all these crazy computer programs, especially these days, technology is so huge in the theater community. And it's just ever growing and ever changing. And especially right now in our virtual world, it's crazy. There's a wonderful theater, and I wish I could remember their name, that has already put together an entire virtual box office experience where you have an avatar and you walk in and you can interact with your other patrons in the box office and you speak to a box office person virtually. And it's so cool. And if you're not sort of in the know, this industry has to keep up with the world just the same as every other industry.
Oh, definitely. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about things that the girls can do now in middle school and high school that would help them prepare for a career in the theater. Rebecca, is there anything that they should focus on or get practice with or try that you think would really help them?
Do theater. Do it. Yeah. Wherever it is. Do it at a community theater. Do it at your school. If you don't have it at your school and you don't have a community theater, do it yourself. Just do it. Just do it. Anything. Try it all. Find out what you like. Find out what you don't like. Find out what you're good at. Find out what you want to know more about. Yeah. Get your hands in. And just go and do it. Even if you don't know what you're doing, do it anyway. Now is the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And take classes and go to camp and talk to people. But yeah, I agree. Wherever it is, and try, as you said, Rebecca, try it, volunteer for the costume crew and volunteer to help paint sets. And it's not all, I used to tell my students all the time, the acting part of it is just a teeny, tiny part. There's so much else out there that you don't know if you're going to like it until you give it a go.
Exactly.
And see theater too.
Oh, yes.
Be an audience member.
Yes.
Be an active participant. Don't be just on one side. Be on both sides of the stage.
Yes.
I like that. What would a typical day look like? I know there's not really a typical day, even especially now, but like what would the schedule look like? Because I'm assuming it's not really a 9-to-5 job.
No.
But maybe I'm assuming wrong.
Well, in community theater, you're usually holding your rehearsals in the evening because the actors that you're working with either go to school or have jobs.
Okay.
So your specific time at the theater might be from 7 to 10, or maybe 6 to 9 if you're working with younger kids. But that's just a small portion of your day. You might have to run over to Michael's and get another glue gun, or you might go to Goodwill and look through the bins of salt and pepper shakers or something, because you need to find something to replace the one that fell off the prop table, or or you might spend a couple hours researching something. So you might spend just a few hours at the theater, but you're spending time that you love, and time doing something that you love, even if it is hunting through the bin at Goodwill for something. Right. Or driving along the side of the road and oh, I could use that dresser that somebody is discarding. I'll put it in my trunk and take it down to the theater.
So I'll blame my husband, his habit of picking things up on his theater experience.
Yes, yes. I can't even, when I was in high school directing, I was responsible for everything. So there were times where I really did need those things by the side of the road. And
absolutely.
Now I don't, because there's a whole staff and a whole another set of volunteers, but it's really hard not to slow down and just see if, oh, maybe
there's something good there. Rebecca, what would a schedule look like, whether it's a daily schedule or a production schedule?
Yeah, so on the production side of things, it can vary depending on what you're doing with production. Mm-hmm. When you're in tech, you're doing, what we refer to sometimes as a 10 out of 12, which means it's a 12-hour day and you're working for 10 of them. Sometimes it's longer. Sometimes things go wrong and then you're there, and I've done calls at 2 a.m. and I've done calls at 8 a.m. So it depends on your show and your schedule. There's no such thing as a weekend in the theater. Doesn't exist. If you're lucky, you'll get a Monday. And even, what I do now on the administrative side of things, I'd like to pretend that it's a 9-to-5 job, and it's not. Because my colleagues who are doing the more artistic things are not working 9 to 5 either. And so when they need me, it's when they're on, which is on the weekends and on the off hours and things. So yeah, in that way, it's ever changing, and it ever depends on the show that you're doing and the production schedule. So you learn to make it work.
Flexibility.
Also, I think you oftentimes are having to give up other things. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the family is going, to see a concert that happens to be that weekend, and you can't go because you've got a show going on, or a group of my friends have a regular Wednesday night dinner. I can't do Wednesday night dinners during kind of thing. But I never mind it. I never feel like it is an imposition, mm-hmm. because once you get involved in that show, you're just committed. And mm-hmm. I have a shirt that says, I can't, I have rehearsal. I know you've probably seen that, Rebecca, because you find yourself saying it quite frequently, but you don't mind.
Well, good. And then kind of this is a good segue into it. This is a question that girls have asked. What is the best/worst part of your job? Rebecca, you want to go?
Ooh, well,
I know.
The best part of my job is the collaboration. I love the collaboration. I love the creative meeting of the minds that happens in theater. And it's one of the reasons I got into production manager in the first place. Is I love watching the puzzle get put together. And I love as a production manager, you got to get to see all the little pieces, and you're kind of one of the people that fits them all into place, and it's wonderful. and I love seeing that beautiful final product come together. So that was, I say, is my favorite part, is really the collaboration.
Well, let's say least favorite, maybe not the
Least
worst, but the
favorite part.
least favorite.
I would say, I tell people all the time that theater is not a glamorous career choice. I have dealt, I mean, I mentioned taking out the trash. I have done that. I have dealt with New York City rats and mice. You know, you never know what venue you're working in sometimes and what you're gonna find. It's a, you know, especially on the production side, it's a down and dirty job. It is. I have had days where I've spent, you know, I come home and I can't feel my legs because I've climbed up and down a ladder so much. And it's physical. It is, and that's not necessarily a bad thing per se, but
It's a tiring thing.
It's tiring, and it is occasionally quite messy.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Jackie, what would be your favorite and least favorite?
I'd have to concur with Rebecca. It's the creativity, the chance to just imagine anything and then be able to follow through on it and see it come to fruition, and definitely the collaboration with the other people that you're working with. Yes, I love everything. I love from the minute I get the script and I just tear into it, and all the way through to making up the rehearsal schedule, and then holding rehearsals, and all the unexpected things that come up along the way, to the performance aspect of it. I guess I would have to go back to what I said, is that sometimes you do find yourself having to make choices of giving something else up.
Yeah.
That's
There's only so much time to do
right.
things. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and so you both talked about the collaboration and all the different parts working together. Can we talk a little bit about those different parts? Because I think a lot of time when people think of the theater, the part that they see are the actors.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot that goes on behind that use a lot of different skills and talents and sciences. And so what are some of those other jobs, other responsibilities, other than that go into a production, other than the actors that we see?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I know, right?
There's a
So
lot.
let's say someone is interested in technology and computer programming. Is there a job for them in the theater?
Yes.
What job would that be?
Technology and maybe you're going to go into lighting, and you're gonna learn to program moving lights and smart lights, and I can't even keep up with the lighting technology right now. Or sound the same way. The sound technology is great. You're going to be a board operator and program sound. You may even work with one of the bigger lighting houses, and maybe you're not the person who's putting the gear up in the air, but maybe you're the person who's actually building the gear for the theater, developing the new gear, developing the new technology, making it better, making it, you know, snazzier and cooler. So that's just one. I know there are apps being developed all the time. There are new apps being developed for vocal rehearsals and for actors and things like that, that I wish I could keep up with as well. But yeah, and again, like now we're in this crazy virtual world. Are you gonna program a new virtual theater experience for people when we have situations like this? Same with box offices. There's whole programs developed for box offices and just for the not-for-profit sector. Fundraising, there's fundraising programs that are being developed constantly with technology. So yeah, it's kind of endless. It doesn't, yeah.
So, and then Jackie, how about like in more of the community side, community theater kind of thing, or smaller theaters, people who don't necessarily want to be on stage, but like to build things and construct things. And it's kind of a leading question, but I think I know you know where I'm going.
Right. Well, I mean, we can start with, if you've got great organizational skills, you can be a production stage manager, and you are the director's right-hand man, and you actually eventually will take over the running of the show during the production of the show, call all the cues, and be in charge of all the other backstage people. So, you know, production manager or stage manager. Then you could be a set, all the way up from a set designer to a set builder, just come in and help paint, just maybe do one project for the set, that perhaps you're a detail painter and you're gonna help them build, you're gonna help them paint some backdrop of trees or something. Costumes, from designing the costumes to revamping existing costumes, to just helping sew button on, or even just organizing the costumes for that particular show. And I mean, then there's props. I love props. I've done props. You know, if I'm going to volunteer for something else, I usually do props, because I love that whole faux, we're going to make this look like it's a dish of ice cream for, so if you love that kind of thinking, then you might be interested in doing props.
Very cool. Is there like an education level that someone would need to reach to do certain jobs, certain trainings, or is this something that you can kind of work your way up through experience within the theater?
Most of the time, I would say that it's probably just experience, unless you're being hired to be an artistic director, or being hired to be a fundraiser, or something like that. Most of the other jobs, it's just learning on the job.
Learning on the job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say I have found that majoring in theater is just sort of one outlet to gaining experience. It's all experience. It's all doing it. So
it's not necessarily the degree, but it's the things they did, the experiences they had. Okay.
It really is. And it's sort of up to you. And I think, every girl's going to know themselves the best, what they think is the best path for them. Mm-hmm. Because I certainly have known many people too, who did not get a theater degree, did not go to school for theater. They just went and did it. Mm-hmm. And they found that to be the better road for them.
Yes.
Well, good. Cool. So there's lots of different options available. This is a tricky question because it's kind of the same challenge for everyone in every field, but what is the biggest challenge right now in the theater field? And I kind of want to say, well, yeah, COVID, but removing that, what is kind of the biggest challenge that someone in the theater experience, the theater field industry, what are they facing?
What I found is that there are now so many opportunities for people that if I would be having auditions for something, I would find that not as many people would audition because, oh, such and such a theater is also doing a show, and And so they're going to audition for that show because it's closer to them. So I think that the challenge for each community theater is to find its niche and really play to its strengths. And because there are so many opportunities for people, and that way people perhaps will know more what they're getting into or what to expect at a particular venue.
Oh, that makes sense.
I would say, and one of the challenges that was prevalent while I was in New York and working in New York theater was keeping the audience in the seats and appealing to multiple audiences. New York theater can very quickly find its way into one little sector of demographic of people, and that's who their audience is, and it gets if you get too much of that, then suddenly there's not enough audience to go around.
Right.
So the challenge of keeping things interesting and different and diversified. There's a big diversity push in the theater community right now, and it's really necessary. Because we really need to start, we need to be able to speak to everyone and to multiple people. And I think that push has really been happening and doing well, but it needs to go further.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's one thing that we're able to do is give more experiences. And it let people, and that's one thing I like about going to the theater is because I'm able to experience someone else's kind of history, what they've gone through, what they thought, whether it's the actor, how the actor is interpreting, or the director, or who the writer. There's so many different opinions and experiences being shared and that I will be exposed to that I wouldn't normally be.
Right.
Yeah. Has technology changed the theater, whether in a good way or a bad way? Has it had what impact has technology had on the theater experience?
It's technology is a tool, and it's all in how you use it, and if you need it. If you have it's the same with, if you don't need a hammer, then why use a hammer? I've seen shows enhanced beautifully by huge technology, wonderful LED boards, cool special effects that enhanced the show. And that's the key, is the technology needs to fit within the show and make the story better and make the story stand out. Because I have seen many shows where they've had every fancy technology tool in the trade, and it completely overshadowed the entire show. And so you were left going, well, that was very flashy, but it wasn't much of a show.
Right.
So yeah, technology's done wonderful things for theater. You just have to use it correctly.
Excellent. Jackie, any
Yeah, I would totally
thoughts? Agree. Cool. Now, as a woman, how has it been working in the theater? Challenges, successes, changes that have happened, changes that are currently happening. Anyone want to touch on that?
It's interesting that that's the one place I've always felt that there weren't any barriers. And I know when I used to teach my directing unit in class, and the kids would have to each direct a little scene, and many of the girls would say, well, I can't tell people what to do, or I don't know what I want them sometimes it was even, I don't even know what I want them to do, because they weren't used to having to be that person
Mhm.
who was in charge. But I love being in charge. I love being the person who tells everybody else what to do. Not in a mean way.
No,
It's just
it's good being in charge.
I think that theater can be it can be a very democratic place, and I do think it can provide girls with a lot of empowering opportunities.
Excellent. Rebecca?
Yeah, when I entered the production scene, it was very much a boys' show. You know, there weren't as many girl professional production folks, especially, you know, when you're a freelance electrician and hauling lights around and things like that. I would roll my eyes at the several, oh, is that too heavy for you? Can I get that for you? And there's a little bit of an aspect of putting your foot down and saying, no, I'm a professional and I've got this. Thanks. And so it's come a long way, which is great. It has come a long way. You will certainly still find some old school technicians in there, but they're less and less and fewer and far between and taken less and less seriously, which is comforting and nice to know. But yeah, it isn't also though, like, it is very empowering to be able to say, no, I'm here and I've got this and I can do this. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like it's a great opportunity for girls to find themselves and to claim it and to use the theater and whatever they want to do as a way to build that confidence.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What advice, and not necessarily steps that they need to take or whatever, but what advice would you give to a girl who's thinking about doing something in the theater as her career?
Okay, she can't just sit home and wait for Simon Cowell to knock on her door and say, we want you to see. I have an issue with kids who were the quietest kid in my class and then would say, I really want to be on the stage. Then you're going to have to get on the stage.
Yeah.
Also, as we said before, acting is just this tiniest part of it. So first of all, just go to the theater and go see musicals, go see plays, go see children's theater, go see edgy theater, go see independent, just go to the theater. Keep a journal. What do you like? What do you not like? Keep a journal about actors. What actors do you like? What actors do you not like? Directors. What style of directorship do you like? Just learn as much as you can. Volunteer, as we said, and an opportunity will present itself somewhere along the way.
Rebecca?
Yeah, I agree. It's sort of the same line. Just if you're thinking about it, go do it. Go, and don't be afraid to do it, and don't be afraid to fail at it. Don't be afraid of whatever mistakes you make along the way. I've made thousands. And it's, at the end of the day, that's okay. It's not life or death. It's theater. It's fine. If the show wasn't perfect, that's okay. You've learned something from it. Just, remember that, because those failures are so important. You carry them with you as you go throughout your career, because that's how you get better. And so, I had a friend way back in high school who used to say, dare to fail gloriously. And it's something that I've carried with me up
That's a
until
good one.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. All right, and then for our final question as we wrap up, what are some ways that people in your field are making a difference in the world?
Whew.
I know. I end with a really good one. Anyone want to volunteer first?
I think in so many ways, you know, I started this chat talking about how I got into theater because I was sort of this wayward soul, and I wanted to do that for people. And I see it every day.
Mhm.
I have seen it in collegiate theater. I've seen it in community theater. I see it now when I work in children's theater, and we have these wonderful little kids who want, because we're changing their world.
Right.
And that's what's really making a difference. We're making a difference with them. I have seen kids who suffer, who have trouble with autism and speaking publicly, and they get up and they're on stage and they're big and they're bold and they're wonderful, because they have found this wonderful confidence in the theater, and it's great. I've seen it in commercial theater, even in programs and reach out programs and things like that. There are so many little wayward souls out there that can all come together and connect in a theater. And it's magic. It's really magic when you see it happen.
There's two things. First of all, the collaboration. There are very few things in life that you get to create with other people, and there's just something so powerful about that we did this together mentality. So that, and then the idea that we can make somebody step out of their own lives for 2 hours and get lost in the world that we've created for them. We make them laugh, we make them cry, we make them think. And that is priceless, that we can give people that experience with 2 hours of theater. So I think those two things are what we're doing to make a difference.
And I think they're all very good things. Ladies, I want to thank you for joining us. And with that, we are going to end.
Thank you, Liz. Nice meeting you, Rebecca.
You as well.
Nice
Jackie.
meeting you. I had a great time. I'm going to put these in the folder where our communication department will hopefully put them up on YouTube. And so I will send you a link probably Friday that feel free to share with any and everyone that you think might be interested.
Will do.
Okay.